Hey everybody, this is Jeff from Series Studios. I am a co-owner and craftsman here with my wife Stephanie, and appreciate you tuning in. I wanted to take a minute and show you via video some of our new pyrite samples. Stephanie did a fantastic job with the pictures, but they just don't really show off the sparkliness, if you will, of these samples, and so I thought maybe if I could get them on video under some good light, that might help. So I'm going to just kind of talk while I try and show some of these. Bear with me, it's the first video of this type I've done, and that being said, if you like it, we can certainly do some more to show off some of our other products. Pyrite is, as you can see, it's got a gold, brassy finish to it. The compound specifically is iron sulfide for you chemistry types, FeS2. It occurs all over the world in nature. These pieces are from Peru, which is pretty widely regarded as being some of the nicest pyrite that's out there. We recently picked them up at the International Gem and Mineral Show out in Tucson, Arizona, which if you're into mineral and rock collecting at all, you're probably familiar with. There's some really unique stuff in here. As you can see, pyrite, it looks a bit like gold. That's why if you've ever heard of fool's gold, that's this stuff. That's what pyrite is. Easily mistaken, particularly in the good old days, if you will, for gold when they dug it up. If you're ever out collecting and you find some, it's very easy to tell the difference between gold, because gold is very soft and pyrite is not. Pyrite cannot be scratched with your fingernail. It cannot be scratched with a pocket knife, whereas gold definitely can. This stuff is great for a display case because it doesn't really tarnish. From what I understand, it can tarnish in a high humidity environment over time. Once it starts to tarnish, I think it's challenging to stop. But we've had some samples, particularly one big one here I'll show you in a few minutes, in our house here in Texas. No special display conditions for 5 years or more now, and it's just as shiny as the day that we got it. So, I don't think it's something you need to be concerned about, but if you let your samples get wet, then there is certainly a risk that you may start to get a little bit of tarnishing. Let me back up with the camera a little bit here. I'm going to quickly throw a ruler out so you can see, kind of some of the measurements. As I had indicated in the listing, typically they're in the, inch to inch and a half to 2 inch range. We got some metrics there on the ruler as well. That's converts to probably 25 to 40 millimeters, somewhere in there. The weights are kind of all over the map, but on average they're coming in between 80 or 90 and 120, 150 grams, somewhere in there. If you're somebody that prefers to think of things in terms of carats, 100, there's 5 carats in a gram, so 90 grams would be 450 carat piece. I don't know if you can see this scale or not, but just to give you some examples, that's 91 grams there on that piece. This piece here is 110 grams. This piece here is 85, 105. It's a big one here. 145. So, again, all over the map there. You can see, let me try and do some more zooming in here, because I want to point out the crystal structures on here. Part of what's fascinated me with pyrite since I was really just a kid is the crystal structures. They form, in general, most of what you'll see are perfect cubes, like this stuff on this guy here. You can see right there, nice little cube, probably 5 millimeters side there. Here's a piece that's got some bigger crystal structures, not quite as clearly cubic on this big one here. Let me see what else we have here. Here's some more very interesting crystal structure on this piece, and then you'll find some that have the little tiny crystals as well. And when you get down in there, those typically are cubic as well. I'm seeing one right here that looks like it's dodecahedral. That's another common crystal formation in these, but not nearly as common as the cubic. I also want to point out here, some of the smaller crystals on some of these pieces as well, where you can get, kind of a mix between the bigger crystals and the smaller pieces. So, to that end, I guess, if you decide to buy a sample from us, and you have a particular preference on size or crystal structure or shape, put a note in your order. We'll do our best to kind of try and find what you're looking for. Certainly we can't ever guarantee availability of any specific piece. We made the decision not to list these all as individual pieces just because it'd be just way too hard for us to keep track of which piece was which, and it just opens the door up to us messing things up for our customers. So the bottom line is, if you want one that's got, some small crystals and some big crystals, put that in your note. And if we've got it, we'll send it to you. If not, we'll send you something else or the closest thing we have. So I do want to show you a good example of some of the non-cubic crystals. And this one here is one caught my eye yesterday when I was reviewing the pieces and getting ready for the listing. I never realized that pyrite, although it's an isometric crystal structure, in addition to cubic, forms what they call dodecahedral. In fact, it's got a more complicated name because it's not a true dodecahedron, it's something or other, but the bottom line is that they have more sides than the six-sided cubes. They also form twinning crystals. I haven't noticed any of those on ours. If you're a mineral guy, then you're probably familiar with twinning crystals like you see real commonly on some of the Moroccan aragonites and some of those kind of pieces. So there's a little more variety. Oh, and I also should mention the lighting because, I'm a bit of a geek being a painter when it comes to lighting colors and intensities and those sorts of things. I've got these under two compact fluorescent bulbs. One is a 5500K, one is a 6500K. Both of those are approximately daylight spectrum. So, that should give you a feel for kind of how we're trying to represent the colors, and they're on, the whitest color of anything I could find around here for a background, which in this case is a beach towel, which works great for rocks, not as great for the stands. Before I show you the stands, I do want to show you some pieces with inclusions. I had mentioned in the listing that some of these have some different mineral inclusions. This one's a great example. Let me see if I can get some good light on there for you. This guy here, he's got some white stuff in here. Here, all through here, all down through here. There's a piece there. That looks like limestone to me. You can see his back is flatter and with a lot less crystal definition. What is it? I don't know. Like I say, the piece on the back looks like limestone or a limestone concretion of some sort. The stuff on the front, it's hard to tell. It could be fluorite, or not fluorite, I'm sorry, calcite, possibly even quartz. Here's another piece with a little bit of white. This stuff here, I'll see if I can get a close zoom in for you on this one, because this stuff is much more crystal looking than the last piece. This I would guess is, oh, and here's some on the other side a lot. This one is one that I would guess is probably calcite, but it could be some form of quartz. This stuff in here almost has a popcorn quartz, if you've ever heard of that, or snowball quartz type of a look to it. Here is a good example of a piece with some of the black inclusions. What is this stuff here? Beats me. Most likely it's another type of iron compound, but it's hard to say because pyrite, again, it comes from all over the world, and it's found in all sorts of matrices and all sorts of rocks. Pyrite itself is a mineral, which means, minerals are components of rocks, not to insult the collectors and geeks out there, but it is a part of many other rocks that are found all around the world. So there's a couple of those. Let me see if I've got another piece. Here's another piece with some black on it. On the end here, looks like the same stuff. Maybe galena, maybe, I don't know, might even be a little bit of darker tarnished pyrite. It's hard to say. We have collected some of this stuff down here in Texas, kind of in the wild, if you will, and you just don't find it this shiny. In fact, if you stick around at the end of the video, I'll show you some of that and share a little bit more information. So, okay, so the next thing I also wanted to show quickly before I lose your attention and you decide to move on is the stands that we have for these. These are called Cobra stands because they do look a little bit like intertwined snakes. They're hand carved in India from one piece of wood. These are called 2-inch stands. because as hopefully you can see, they fold up, and when they're folded, they are 2 inches long. When you stand them up, you can see here, I guess I didn't do that on camera, you can fold them very easily into their stand-up position. They can go either way, and they are just right on the money, 1 inch tall. So this is the smaller size of Cobra stands, and they really are perfect for this size of pyrite. Now, bear with me here, because standing things up on a double layer of beach towels is not the easiest, but there's an example of how you could display a piece of this stuff. Here's a really nice piece with some smaller sparkly crystals on the top, and then some bigger cubic crystals. You throw that sucker on there. In fact, you can sit it different ways. I know that some people like us like to periodically change the displays in their cases, and this is one that almost turns into a different rock when you flip it over. So these stands are an additional $3 on top of the cost of the nuggets. We're charging flat price, same price for all the pieces. And kind of what we decided to do, since we didn't list them separately, is like I mentioned before, if you have a specific request, we'll do our best to honor that. If we don't have the piece you want, if it's something super specific, we may email you back about that, or we'll just send you the best piece we have. That's kind of what I think is fair, because we don't really expect this stuff to stay around for a whole heck of a long time. So kind of what I thought is sort of a first come, first serve. And it'll be, my judgment, Stephanie's judgment, what are the nicest looking pieces that we have at the time the order comes in, and that's what we'll pull and ship to you. So that way, hopefully, everybody will end up with something cool. Honestly, there's not a bad piece in the batch. This is not every single piece that we have. This is 2/3 of them, though. So, you can see some of the different shapes, some of the different crystals, and like I say, what's most striking to me is the shininess of these guys. I know when they mine them in Peru, they have a process that they use to clean them, and I don't know what it is, because like I say, we've picked up some stuff here in Texas before, and it's tough to clean up. So there you have the pyrite, there you have the stands. Feel free to tune out and go back to the listing and order up a piece or a couple pieces if you'd like. Now I'm going to show you just a little bit more about pyrite, via some of the samples that we have in our collection, and some of the samples that we picked up locally. This is the big nugget that I mentioned that we've had around here for 5 years or so. As you can see, it's not tarnished at all. It doesn't have quite the intensity of yellow color as the smaller pieces that we have for sale, but that's just because it's just not as nice of a sample. It's certainly a great piece, but not as nice as those. But the point is, there's no tarnishing. It didn't start out as shiny as those pieces, and but it has not gotten any shinier. And this one has actually been handled a lot. It doesn't just sit in the display case. You probably know that we're gamers, and so it gets used frequently as a cool piece of terrain. It works well as a space rock for space games, or a big boulder for miniatures to hide behind when you're playing a combat game. So that's about what a piece that's sitting in humid Texas display cabinet for 5 years looks like from a tarnish standpoint. Now I want to show you what this stuff looks like when you pick it up in the wild. I thought I had some other samples here, but because pyrite is an iron-based compound, anywhere that it's exposed is dark. So we periodically get access to some private land, south of Dallas, down here in Midlothian. In fact, this is one of our local pieces, I believe, that we picked up right here, down in Midlothian, Texas. And when you see the stuff, it's a strip mine, so a lot of it's exposed, and so you know that you're looking at a piece of pyrite. Because you'll see a black rock sticking out of the ground or sticking out of the wall of the strip mine. I mean, it's black as black comes, and so we just kind of pluck them like that, and then we bring them home and clean them up with some iron out, which will take off a lot of that black, but it just does not give you the nice shiny finish like this stuff. This is a good example. This is actually one of the nicer pieces we've cleaned up. And the reason that is because if you're familiar with the oxidation and the tarnishing process on any, metal or metallic element or mineral, you know that it's actually a chemical reaction. And so a portion of the pyrite, of the iron sulfide, specifically the iron, is actually combining with the elements to form that black tarnish color. The sulfur combines with water and becomes sulfuric acid and goes away. The end result is you can clean the tarnish off of there, but the face gets etched. So you don't get the shininess that you get on, these amazing pieces that we get from Peru. That's why these are, certainly more pricey than the stuff that you can pick up by bucket loads. Down here in Texas, though, I will say, in 40 years of rock hunting, I never found a piece of pyrite till we got access to this place. So now, we have found some pieces when we've been looking for fossils inside limestone that are not exposed to the elements. This is what it looks like from Texas when it's not exposed to the elements. These are pretty small pieces. Again, they formed completely like this little guy. It's really interesting. We have a lot of these little kind of oblong pieces and little balls where, you can see clearly the classic cubic structure. It's just a lot smaller. But the reason I mention it is to say that, these are shiny because they were not exposed to the elements. They were buried in the middle of a piece of limestone that we found when we busted it open with a rock hammer. Sometimes when you find pieces that are tarnished, you'll find, something really unique like this. And hopefully the camera and the lighting will pick it up. This has, kind of that dark black color of an exposed piece of pyrite, but in this case it's turned red, and so sometimes you'll hear this called rose pyrite, and that's why we didn't clean this piece up. We have several others like this in our collection that are a really nice pink color, and that's just kind of the luck of Mother Nature in the way that this particular one, oxidized and tarnished. Again, it's iron, and you probably know that anything with iron has a tendency to lean towards the red side, so I suspect that's probably what causes that pink color. Pyrite, of course, is yellow because of the sulfur that's in there. I would expect it's FeS2 for your chemistry types is the chemical formula, iron sulfide. So there you go, everything you wanted to know about pyrite. It's got a Mohs hardness of 6 to 6.5, so it's pretty darn hard. Comparatively, the agates are 7.5 range. Something like a apatite is down more in like the 5 range, so quite a bit softer. And then you look at your corundums, rubies, diamonds; those are getting up in the 8 and the 9 range. So that's kind of how that stuff works. Specific gravity I have listed in the listing. I think it's in the neighborhood of 5, 4.5 to 5.2, something like that. This stuff is just not that specific because specific gravity measurement on it. I know I'll mention marcasite, as that's another element that's in this group. It's the exact same formula as pyrite, FeS2, but it's got a little bit different crystal properties. It comes in different colors. Typically, it can be gold like this. It's often more silver, white, and shiny, and it's real breakable. In fact, some of these pieces that we've collected, I think, may have some marcasite inclusions in there. I'm not entirely sure on that stuff, what's what. So the other thing about pyrite you may have picked up when I weighed these is it's really heavy stuff. I mean, it's an iron compound, so iron's heavy. Naturally, these are going to be heavy too. Not so heavy that the shipping is outrageous on pieces like this, of course, because they're so small. Again, I would call that a little bigger than a golf ball. Something like this, maybe the size of a golf ball if you ran over it with your truck. Something along those lines. But it's certainly very heavy, solid stuff, which is another reason it gets mistaken for gold. So, there you have it. We do have these stands listed as an optional add-on for, I think, $3. If you buy one of the nuggets, you can get a stand for $3. We soon will have the stands also listed in the store separately, so that if you've got a collection and you want to get some of these, you can. We just never seem to have enough of them, because you can put, even on these small little 2 inchers, you can put all different sizes of things on here. They look great with mineral samples. They look great with spheres if you collect spheres or eggs or geodes. In fact, I'll even show you, we use one of these in our display case for this big monster nugget, and he'll sit right on there even when it's on, a double or triple layer of cushy bath towel. Here it's still able to stand up and display quite nicely from a couple of different angles. So you can see these are one piece of wood. I don't know how in the world they carve these things so that it's 3 interlocked pieces, and they call them cobra stands just because they kind of resemble snakes, I guess. And they come from India. I'm not sure what the type of wood is exactly. I would guess it's either something I've seen a lot lately called sabo wood, which I'm not familiar with, or sabo wood, or possibly acacia wood is another one that you see come from that part of the world fairly frequently. So there you have it, Series Studios' latest collection of pyrite samples. We've got 30 or 40 pieces. Don't think they're going to last long. We've priced them to sell because we were able to get a good price on them as well when we bought them in quantity. So, we're just marking them up a little bit to get them out to you guys. If you want more than one piece, email us. We may be able to, make you a bit of a deal on that. Knock a few bucks off, something like that. And then just a sneak preview. I know I've hinted at these on our Facebook page, but something else that we recently picked up that will be showing up in one form or another in the store soon are some absolutely awesome carved crystal skulls. I call them crystal. Most of them are not technically crystals. They're semi-precious stones. This one is a crinoid fossil piece, and I don't know if you can see. It's easy to mistake for or leopard jasper until you look real closely and see those are actually all little cuts of crinoid fossil covering this thing. As you can see, the carving is really nice, and that's indicative of all of them. Here's one in unakite. Here's one in tree agate. And again, we've got 30 or 40 of these guys. Some will probably be used in crafts and dioramas, but we're happy to, sell them all, as is. I just don't know how soon we'll get around to getting them into the shop. So if you're interested, shoot us a note. We do have some crystal pieces. We have an outstanding piece that's either amethyst or fluorite. I'm still working on IDing it. I think it's amethyst, but it's got such, outstanding color variation in it that I'm inclined to think that it may be fluorite. We also have a clear or translucent bright lemon yellow piece, which I suspect is probably calcite, but I'm not positive. It might be a yellow translucent, agate of some sort. Dalmatian jasper, leopard jasper, snakeskin jasper, all kinds of stuff. We've got some black ones, I think a combination of jet and obsidian, that are absolutely gorgeous. So, these are going to vary in price based on the material, the rareness of the stone, something like and how cool they look. Something like a plain old, brown jasper skull is going to be a lot cheaper than this, outstanding amethyst specimen that we have. If we even decide to sell it, because the amethyst piece is just, it's unbelievable. You can hold a flashlight up to the underneath of it, and the light shines through and lights up the whole skull, and it's really, really cool. So anyhow, I know those kind of things are growing in popularity. I see more and more of them all the time for sale, and I've seen some of those skulls that are just insanely priced, like $400 and $500 for a little carved skull, this size. Certainly unakite doesn't go for $400 or $500, but even unakite, which is what this is, goes for an awful lot more than what I would probably pay for it if I was a consumer. So we're happy to be able to offer these soon at a very, very reasonable price. What it's going to be yet, we just haven't figured out. Stephanie has been plunking away, taking pictures the last few days of these, and I haven't had a chance to look at the pictures yet, but hopefully we'll get a listing up. I'm also thinking of taking some of the nicer ones, maybe mounting them as a museum mount type of a situation. And I've seen some used interestingly with other quartz clusters and dioramas, and I may try and do something like that as well, depending. So that's enough of me talking for today. You've certainly got the idea. Sparkly pyrite. That's the idea. So the website, probably you've got it if you came here. If you happen to just find us on YouTube, it's Series Studios, which is CERESSTUDIOS.com. That forwards to our shop on Etsy. Or you can always email us directly with your questions or to make other arrangements for purchase at series.studios@gmail.com. So again, thanks much for tuning in. Thanks for your patience with my ugly hands and fingernails. It kind of comes with the territory when you paint and garden and woodwork all day long. And I hope to see an order or an email come across from you soon.